What's the difference between a speech and a conversation?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I think when I think of a speech, I think it of sharing something, getting something out there. And maybe, yeah, and conversation is more bi-directional.
A conversation can be bi-directional, but when it's your turn speaking, and you speak for about a minute, right? A friend asks you, like, what do you think is the key to a bright future, right? And you speak for that next minute. What's the difference between that and this?
That, yeah, I'm not sure really.
Yeah.
I think you're right. There's probably not so much of a dramatic difference than I think it is.
I'm not sure what the difference is either. I'm really curious about what if we began to pull as much of our speaking is amazing in conversation, I find we do all the right things, all the natural
Yeah.
things, right? So how how can we bring all of the things we already do well into this exercise? Well, what if we flip that switch?
Mm, yeah, that's a really good point.
And so let's flip that switch. Let's just focus on one thing at a
Hmm.
time. I'm going to share my screen here. So we're going to do another minute 31. Um, just a conversation.
Hmm.
That's your only intention. Cool.
Okay. The end of your world. So I hope it's one of those things that I don't actually get to experience the end of my world. I'm really attached to my world, and when I think about it ending, I find it really sad and very, very unsettling. And I really don't want to see the end of my world because who knows what comes afterwards. So I'd much rather see my world go on and have me the chance, give me the chance to enjoy it and to play with it and to look around what's happening and do do all the things that I actually want to be doing in this world. And it scares me to think of the world ending actually and this world ending. And I'd rather not, much rather not experience that. Because really, who knows what's coming? Who knows what the next world is going to look like? And I'm really happy with this current world. And so I think when I think about the world ending, interestingly, I'm not even curious what's coming afterwards, which is quite unusually for me because I'm usually a really curious person. But I think I'm really just very attached to this current world and I don't want to see it end.
Wow. Ellen, that was different.
Thanks.
Did it feel different?
Yeah, it did. I really tried to do this inwards and very inwards and outwards focused thing. And I think it's working really well if I
It's amazing. To me it feels like the final domino is we're just trying to get it to collapse, right?
okay.
And see if you can articulate what did you have to do differently? Like what what did you do up here differently going into this one that maybe you haven't been doing in the last 2 weeks? What's the real shift?
Yeah, it's really the direction of my mental energy, whether I focus more on what's inside of me or whether what's in front of me. And it's really it's as simple as that, but that's what
Wow.
it has been.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, I think, and so what does that change? Why is that important, do you think, in all of this?
Because it also changes the expression of, I think if I shift the energy and my own focus, then I think that the direction that I'm speaking to and the way I'm expressing myself is different.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't pick up on it.
The when I change the energy of my focus, what I'm focusing on, I think the expression is also different, whether I'm having my focus inside or whether I focus it outside.
Yeah, and different how? Like what, why is one not better than the other, but what is the difference? Why do you want to go in this direction, for example, and keep exploring this path instead of just saying, let's forget that and let's go back to.
I think it just gives different quality. It's really about this musicality thing. So this low energy is really, maybe it's not so much low energy, but it's really more focused inward energy. And the high energy, the intensity is really more focused outward energy.
Mm, mm. That's an interesting way to express it. I don't know if that's how I see it, but it's very interesting. The lows are definitely inward for me. I think the
Mm-hmm.
highs are outward, but they can be inward too, where
Mm-hmm.
where it's just frustration, but I'm frustrated at this thing and it's still me, right? Feeling.
Yeah.
One of the if I just take the last minute and I asked you and I rewind and I show you the point where I asked you, why do you think, what's the difference between internal and external?
Mm-hmm.
You took this, you looked up and you took this breath and then and you kind of scrunched your face and then you started to answer, right? And that I never see when you speak, when you give speeches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So there's something that's more authentic about how you are in regular conversation. You get asked a question and you take time, you think, you show that you don't know quite yet. And then you think out loud in a very intelligent way, like you just did with well, that this is outward, this is inward. Before, when you were giving speeches, it felt like you, regardless of whether you knew or you didn't know, you just you went out and you're going to do the best, and it's like this. And this is an important step,
Mm-hmm.
Ellen. It's not a mistake, or it's not a bad thing. This is how I learned too. I learned that if I don't feel good inside, or if I don't know inside, there are ways for me to pretend and to show that
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yeah.
And I'll do such a good job of this that people will actually applaud and think that I'm good. And so now that you're able to do that, now that you have built the confidence and the ability to express yourself, now you can come back to the place you started, which is it's okay to not know. It's okay to take moments to think. It's okay to be imperfect because as soon as you do start speaking, like you got it, right? So now your moments of vulnerability, your moments of inward confusion are part of the musicality of your
Mm.
moments of shining and perfection and brilliance. They only help each other be more impressive, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
So let's do one where now you're conducting yourself, right?
Okay.
The only thing I'll set is a timer
Mm-hmm.
on the page. We'll go right here. And I'll ask you a question, and I'm just going to sit
Mm-hmm.
back and
Cool.
watch. So it's just going to be a minute and a half timer.
Okay.
Who are you most yourself around, and why do you think that is? Let me do one more time, just so that this guy goes.
Sorry. Yeah. Who am I most around with myself? It's a really interesting question, and it's not one that I've spent a lot of time thinking about so far. think I'm most myself around my really good friends. Those, especially I have one friend from, I know her since high school. We graduated together, and I think I'm most around myself around her because she has known me for such a long time. So I wouldn't even try to pretend anything around her because she would immediately spot it. And I think I also there's such a long trust between us that it's very easy to be ourselves with each other. And even though our lives have evolved in totally different directions, and there isn't, if we met today, we probably wouldn't have anything and find anything in common and probably not become ever friends because of that reason. But because we've known each other for almost 20 years now, or at least 20 years, it's such a different experience. And it's it's
Yeah.
really a really good experience for us. And even though we see each other maybe twice a year or something, and it's a very rare experience, it's always a very special experience to me. And so I think I'm really the most myself around this friend that I've had for such a long time from my high school.
Yeah, there it is. Tell me what feels different when you do something like this.
It was a very different. I can't even put it in clearly into words. I
How
think
does
it
it
was
feel?
um, very unfocused in a way, but not in a rambling way, but more in a less pressurized way, so
Yeah,
more spacious.
yeah, yeah. Unfocused in that you might not have the clarity from the first moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is strange because when in triple step, one of the key breakthroughs for you to master triple step was the moment you see the title, pick the direction, commit to it, and go with it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? So it's so great to learn with you because I'm learning myself of what these games teach and how both are important, both have value, right? To to do that is important. It's such a great
Mm-hmm.
skill to have. But only doing that leaves on the table this space for a more deep and authentic answer.
Yeah. Yeah. That is really interesting. Didn't even draw that connection, but you're right.
Yeah, so now it's about finding your balance and your style of speaking. Now that you have all these tools, it's about really feeling comfortable using whatever you want, if that makes sense. Like now it's just speaking. Every time you have to speak, it's just speaking. And there's no such thing as a speech. There's no such thing as a presentation. There's no such thing as an interview. There's no such thing as teaching a class. There's no such thing. It's just you in the moment speaking on the spot. And that might be the final shift. You
Mm-hmm.
can
Yeah.
you can be introspective or you can put on your best kind of sparring hat and do a battle of wits in the moment and see how good you can do and kind of hold this confident facade. Both are okay. I do some sometimes, I do some other times, but it's all the same sport now. It's all the same game.